Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, live, and who knows, maybe for the last time. I have no idea whether or not this channel is going to be around in 24 hours, 24 minutes, 24 days. As a lot of you know, if you've been paying attention, my channel was pulled yesterday, completely arbitrarily, saying, repeated violations of a severe manner and all these things. And they tried to cite a video I did on transhumanism earlier in the day as against their medical misinformation policy. So just so everybody knows, now's the time to thumbs this video up, subscribe, and share. But most importantly, make the free Rockfin account. If you're watching this and still don't have it, and you're going to wonder why I disappear, and who knows, maybe I'm pushing my luck here by reviewing some QAnon stuff. But since we've covered it since the beginning, with a critical eye, trying to get people out of their trances, trying to get people to understand that superheroes don't post on message boards to take down evildoers in the underground. It's not how the world actually works. It's never been how the world actually works, and it created this system of inaction. Now, I mentioned this because the last time I reviewed something like this, it was the 3-part Vice series, and we did a rather elaborate breakdown of that series, okay? And remember, it had its points that I actually thought were pretty good, but at the same time, many of the things that disturbed me about it was it delegitimized actual research into things I've been talking about for decades. Let me repeat that. Been talking about for decades that actually do have legitimacy. For instance, when we talk about high-level abuse of children, we have seen it in institutions like the Catholic Church. We have seen it in institutions like the Boy Scouts. We have seen it in institutions like American politics. Now, I can rattle off Anthony Weiner's name. I can rattle off Dennis Hassert's name. I can rattle off Ed Murray's name. I can rattle off Tom Foley's name. I believe it's Tom Foley. Mark Foley. I believe it's Mark Foley out of Florida. No, those are easy. Most people don't know what I'm talking about, but those are real. You type that in with child abuse, and you're going to find some stuff. And then you start getting into that cowboy ring, covers of mainline papers, and you had people like Barney Frank who were running a brothel out of their D.C. apartment with somebody they were paying as an assistant, and I believe it was connected to Chevy Chase Elementary. These are all real things. What I can promise you is none of these things are ever brought up when they talk about the QAnon conspiracy. They all just discredit high-level pedophilia in government and then, of course, Hollywood. And how are they able to do that? Well, again, they go with the stuff that either there's absolutely no evidence or there's very little circumstantial evidence, and they push it on people to the point that South Park ends up running an episode where Oprah Winfrey is drinking blood with Tom Hanks, and they're associating it with Jeffrey Epstein, right? So I've gone on a bit of a rant before I've even got to this HBO documentary, which appeared to be the span of almost 3 years. And again, it puts this narrative out there that free speech is not absolute. And it presents itself as though it's going to tell you who Q is, when that's not really the story at all. In fact, the story is more along the lines of, and I'm not going to try to totally ruin it for people, but, and I think people should watch it. It's more along the lines of what 8chan was. And they keep interjecting 8chan in this because the hypothesis is that the owners of 8chan, Jim and Ron Watkins, at some point took over the Q and nonsense posts. Either lured him in or her or whatever it was, a LARP, and then, snagged it. But then they really don't talk about the origins ever. And when we talked about possible origins via the Vice series that we discussed, we discussed the theory of Cicada 3301, and we discussed the theory of DEF CON. And none of these documentaries ever talk about Shadowbox. And this one in particular actually gave a voice to Schoenberger, put him as an animated cicada butterfly. And quite frankly, I think that guy's dangerous. And he has trolled me before. He's been in these, I've had to ban him in these chats. I want nothing to do with people whose names are all over court documents. I want nothing to do with people that are involved with something called Shadowbox, and internet reputation management, and sock puppet accounts. Okay? So we're going to get there in a minute, but I want to remind everybody, this could be very well, who knows? Listen, I'm reinvigorated. I'm rejuvenated. I sent my video yesterday. Remember, my channel was really taken down for like an hour yesterday. Okay, we're back up. I still can't believe it. Shout out to Gritch, who after I was talking about it on my exclusive Cara Castronova interview over at Rockfin, and there's an exclusive Nico House. I think I'm going to take bits and pieces of those. I'm going to post them on YouTube, direct people over to Rockfin so they can watch those interviews, which obviously we can't do here anymore. And I sent my holy shiitake, delicious mushroom. I just got kicked off YouTube, and my channel was just given back. So if you haven't seen this, if you haven't seen those videos, it's the real deal. They had taken down a video of mine, impromptu protest time, on Tuesday, okay, about 3 days ago, but they didn't give me a strike, and they didn't kick me off. Because, again, I can't believe they even took that off. It was me on the street being confronted by Antifa, and then going towards Trump supporters, and I interviewed Cara Castronova and Riz Flex and Enrique Otario. I remain pretty damn neutral in these things. I'm not out there chanting with signs. When I'm an activist, I'm an activist. Okay? And obviously I believe in free speech. So anybody that wants to talk to me can. But they told me yesterday, and it was right as I was going live with Cara, that they had severe and repeated violations of the community guidelines. We're done. We're done with you. So I'm like, what? Video got hit. And again, they tried to say World Health Organization on social distancing and self-isolation that may lead people to act against that guidance. What? I mean, what does that mean? That means I can't tell people to hug one another anymore? And I can't tell people that self-isolation might be bad? I mean, that's the craziest thing ever. And I said, basically, I didn't even mention, COVID 1984. Not once. And I certainly didn't mention the boop boop. And it's a transhumanist video. I want you to think about that for a second. They tried to ban my channel on me saying human touch is important. And that loving each other basically is important. Your face is important. And there's an agenda out there to put a Neuralink type brain chip in you and beyond. And I cited all of it. And that's what they wanted to take me down for. And again, I sent this to the Wall Street Journal. Even they said, that's crazy. That's crazy. So I really, we're on another level here. We're on another level here. And that's the thing. When they tell you that the whole thing, all right, this whole thing was associating any kind of validity to believing, okay? I mean, it's totally nutty, right? And through the whole thing, it's Frederick Brennan trying to not be such a free speech absolutist. It's them associating, they try to put the DC pentagram in there. and the DC Owl. And I know that Moloch is mentioned. And by the way, I've always been very explicit that although the cremation of care is a Baal or Moloch type ritual, their deity is the owl, the Bohemian Club. There's no doubt in my mind. I have the books. It is never referred to as Moloch. I did not put that in my film, Invisible Empire, which you can still see for free right here, right now. And again, it's this narrative that fully, and it's 6 parts. It's got to be roughly 5 hours. That starts with the creation of hate-on message boards. And by the way, the way that they trail it along to these message boards, there's one certain creator guy, I can't remember what his name is, but he actually does a pretty good job, okay, of at one point saying, they just want the people out there to protest for a day, get mad, then not do anything, then suck off Jeff Bezos, is what he said, basically. He said it even worse than I said it. I cleaned it up a bit. And this guy was actually very, very intelligent, right? And you get to the point where, and let me show you some of these people if you haven't seen this, okay? You get the point where Frederick Brennan is this physically disabled young person who's basically spent his whole life on the internet, right? And for some of us out there that were here before Google dominated the planet, and there was only 5 websites everybody visited, and smartphones were everywhere or even invented, we know about things like he was somethingawful.com, the one guy that was talking about it. These sites where basically you could go and see. E-Bombs World was one of them. There was a whole bunch of them. And, there was some terrible, terrible stuff on there. And it definitely, anything illegal needs to be cleaned up. And even if it's not illegal, doesn't mean I agree with it. But I don't think we should ban speech. And outside of those things, we need to take them off. And they keep associating these mass shootings with these message boards and 8chan in particular. And that bothered me too, because let's talk about that. We'll talk about for the Christ shooting is talked about largely in there. First of all, there are some questions about the second arrests that were being made there. That maybe it was bigger than what we all saw. I'm certainly not one of those people that questioned, whether it happened or said it was some kind of weird production. I'm not that guy. They're desperate to kind of bring those people into it, anything they can get Q or whatever. But there were some other arrests that day at a separate mosque in which I cover. I think that's important. But also the hypocrisy, right? Now, there's 2 stories I've covered in the last 3 months, if you remember. There's one where there was a guy literally going around. It was either Facebook or Instagram. I think that he was Facebook and the other one was Instagram, but I could get this wrong. Where he was riding around Illinois outside the outside of Chicago, just randomly going around. In some of the videos, he was killing people, and he said he was going around giving out death sentences and blessings. All right, now that's not a mass shooting you probably ever heard of. Happened to be, a black man. Now, not a black man that they could associate with Louis Farrakhan, which you just saw in this latest Capitol incident, further establishing that we need protecting D.C. It needs to be militarized. And by the way, the end of this whole series is D.C. being militarized and the fences going up. So again, this is really, man, how do I say it? This is really more of a piece on trying to associate mass shootings with free speech, okay? But then, acting like the big tech guys are actually doing something about it, right? They show big tech, they're censoring people. They encourage them once they start deplatforming people. Will Sommer, for instance, is highly used in this. Daily Beast writer. He no longer follows me. I'm not sure if he ever followed me, but we had interactions back and forth. And Will never really attacked me, but I think he was trying to wait it out because at the time I had a lot of steam from reporting on Epstein for many years and on the run-up to his arrest and not buying into the Q and nonsense and trying to explain to people what was going on, okay? But then I remember he got one of these guys, the Tommy G band, and there was an article about it. And I just said to him, look, man, you shouldn't be basking in having people deplatformed. I go, you want better speech, go that way. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of quote unquote Q people out there, but by the time they get to the Capitol, they act like everybody at the Capitol was some kind of Q person. That's not even close. When you go just like 6 months before and their rally, you maybe have 65, 70 people. Let me repeat that, 65, 70 people. No, it's Trump that, motivated a ton of these people to come out. They also associate any kind of idea of irregularities in any aspect of the election to Q nonsense. So again, there's certain questions you can't ask through this whole thing. And they associate it with WikiLeaks as well. Meanwhile, not really being interested in the origins of Q. And by the way, giving Schoenberger, although they basically talk about his one little intelligence connection other than Shadowbox that he has, and they show this much older picture of him where he's like better looking. If you've seen him getting served with papers from Gabe Hoffman, you'll know he doesn't look like that, right? I mean, he was in my chat 2-3 months ago. That guy, he's dangerous, man. That dude, and other people might have other opinions, but I don't play those weird psychopath internet games. And continually, there's one point where they kind of associate Cicada 3301 and Schoenberger with this thing's birth, right? But they put it into more of an aspect where Michael Flynn and others are going to utilize this thing. They never talk about Robert David Steele, which I think was important. They don't talk about his association with Schoenberger. There's a lot of things that, this documentary was not really interested in finding out who I guess Q was, but who it became. And in that sense, just so everybody understands, he obviously was older than this. This is one of the Watkinses. This is Ron and his father, Jim. You've probably seen, they both look like characters. And, they say at the end, it's pretty evident, he smiles and this is his dad here. And they're the ones that buy 8chan from Frederick Brennan. Really, that's what the story is mostly about. That's what drives the whole thing. They're the interviews. They're the people they focus on. And remember, relying on emotion rather than facts kind of also pushes a narrative. So, basically these guys have an interaction, the filmmaker 3 years afterwards with this guy via Skype, where he feels like he admits he's Q. Okay. And I watched it and I'm not so sure the guy wasn't trolling him then. You can't believe a word out of these guys' mouths. At the same time, the watches, the pens, I definitely think at some point, him and his dad started posting as them and maybe even had back channel connections. But there's even, a point where he tries to allegedly set the filmmaker up with a trail of forensic disinformation that Bannon is the person that started this whole thing. It's a long one. I did it over 2 sittings, 1 through 3, and then 4 through 6. And I'm going to say this again: you come away with someone like me who does talk about real high-level trafficking, is concerned with government corruption, has been concerned with things like Diebold and other voting machine systems for 15 years, more than 15 now. 17 plus, really. 2004 election, I was well aware of these issues. Wanting free speech, wanting the declassification of documents, stopping executive orders and propaganda on the people, supporting WikiLeaks and other public disclosure organizations, wanting an end to forever wars. All those things. And the real story that someone needs to do is show how the movement that they brought in as a PSYOP Really, even though, Trump wrote it out, right? There's no doubt about it. We did those videos. And towards the end, they get there, okay? They start showing how Trump leaned into it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And really leaned into it on the run-up to the 2020 election, period. I mean, really leaned into it. And the entire time, I told you nobody was coming to save you. I told you. Now, does that mean from now on I have to believe everything is on the up and up politically in every sense of the word? That's the narrative they want to sell you on the internet or ban you. Does anything say that more than what just happened to me yesterday? I'm probably, listen, from what people are telling me, Computing Forever had this same thing happen to them where they were up, their channel got taken down, then all of a sudden it was up, 72 hours later it was gone. 72 hours later it was gone. So you got to ask yourself, and by the way, I encourage people to check out this documentary because I'm not saying that Ron and Jim Watkins are good people. I think they're extremely deceptive. But I certainly don't think they're any more deceptive than somebody like Schoenberger. If you read some of the things that he's been involved in, scamming women and doing just the most obscene things you can imagine as a human being. Look, I got a soul or something like it. Whether it's actual empathy for humanity and other people and wanting to do the right thing and loving my family and cherishing those times and my friends and going out and being a human being. I mean, basically, they're trying to look at that. It said, I can't tell you not to social distance. What? I can't tell you to hug another human being. I can't tell you to get arm in arm and shake a hand. That's nuts. That's nuts. And that's what, and they want to take my channel down for that in a video I didn't even mention anything like it. And who knows, I've covered, this hoax from the very beginning, and I tried to get people on the real information and told them it's not happening. Okay. And I hated when I was getting the WWG. I didn't understand what it was for the longest time in the chat, or the thank you things like, no thanks. No thanks. And I hope a lot of you that were into that thing have now grown up and realized that we are in a lot of trouble. We do need to mobilize. The digital boot is more than on our neck. It's crushed our clavicle. And when I say our, I mean it's not just the independent journalist community or the conspiracy theory community. We've seen it been happening with doctors, with businessmen, with anybody that goes outside of a narrative pushed by, an unelected system that protects them. They talked about, for instance, Citizens United at some point in this documentary. Okay, and one of the lawyers for Citizens United represents Watkins, and Citizens United basically says that money is free speech and corporations are free speech. The problem with that to me is that you can't put any of these people in jail, not real jail, unless it's like a financial crime. These people, for instance, show me the people that did prison time when Bayer got caught with live HIV in their Factor VIII medication. That's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. So I do want to say thank you to some of the tips over at Rockfin, Cam Marr, thank you so much. Thanks for all the support over there. People like Jim Garrison also supporting me all over the place. Here's the deal, guys. I don't know if I'm going to be here all day. I'm going to try to be. I want to do maybe my last walk and talk, maybe an Ask Me Anything. We're going to post some of that Cara Castronova interview. I got Pasta coming up from the Convo Couch, and I got to tell him to be careful. I'm not even sure that Pasta will be anything more than Rockfin because we're so on the edge here on YouTube. So thumbs it up, subscribe, share. All my documentary films are free in the playlist section. I do want to thank, outside of Rockfin, Odyssey. That's an impromptu protest time. That's another video they took down for backing up my channel, because that you can't get on my YouTube channel anymore. and it's, they didn't give me a strike for it, and it's kind of ridiculous. It's, me jumping around and doing my thing down in D.C. In December, and again, it's like, are you not allowed to cover the news anymore? Are you not allowed to show people what's really going on in the world? That's where we're at. Again, YouTube cancels the Senate. Two of my strikes. That's what severe and repeated offenses mean to these people. And again, I want to highlight again. They're saying that the guidance on social distancing and self-isolation and things that may lead to act against that guidance. That is insanity. That is insanity. Guys, I love you.